Hi, welcome to Connects Live. I'm Mark Michelson, and I help to put these events together. And today we have our special guest, Chip Bell. And Chip is an old acquaintance from a long time ago. We've had him around different conferences, and he has written. How many books have you written?
More than I've read. 24.
24 books. Oh my goodness. And so we're going to talk about his latest book today, which is called Inside Your Customer's Imagination. And for those of you who haven't seen the cover of it yet, here it is. And so Chip, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this book and a little bit about that process too. This is fascinating to me.
Sure. Well, every organization in the world, I think, knows if they don't keep creating new products, services, and solutions, they go out of business. And so I think most organizations out there sort of tend to look for their research and development, their R&D function to do that, or they do best practices, or they whatever. And since I'm a customer service guy, I'm thinking, why not turn to your customer? Because a lot of times customers have lots of cool ideas and half-baked insights, and I began to think about what would happen if the customer was a co-creator with a provider in creating new breakthrough product, service, and solutions. And from there, I realized that relationship, in order for that to happen effectively, needs a special kind of partnership relationship for it to be effective. So that was sort of the impetus for it. My area of work is all around innovative service, and so this was sort of a logical next step to treat the customer as a partner, as a co-creator.
So when you talk about innovative service, I've heard you use a phrase of value unique. What does that mean exactly? Value
Well, it's a
unique.
good question. Again, every organization focuses on exceeding the customer's expectations, and they traditionally approach that by what I call value added, taking what your customer expects and add more. There's a problem with that. And generosity is always good, but what happens is you increase the, add to the customer's expectations. Guess what happens to their expectation? They tend to go up, and pretty soon you're at risk of running out of room. I mean, you're such a great customer, we'd like to upgrade you to the fancy floor on the concierge level. Well, I might need to sell that room, and I don't want to cut the guest showing up and saying, "Hey, I want to be upgraded again." And so, value added is an addition approach. Value unique is creating a unique experience, something that's different, something that's unexpected. And what we know is there's a limit to generosity, but there's no limit to ingenuity. And so value unique is about creating a response that's unexpected, that's kind of a surprise to the customer. And one of the main benefits for that is that the pinnacle of customer loyalty is not a recommendation. With a hat tip to Mr. Reichel, who likes to talk about the net promoter, the pinnacle is when they tell stories about you. When you hear a customer say, "You ain't gonna believe what happened to me," and they tell this great story, they're encouraging people to try a particular product or service. And so it is that unique experience that is the basis of a likely story.
Mhm.
So that's been the centerpiece of my practice for the last number of years is creating experiences that that promote a story that customers eager to share with others.
That's fascinating. So when you sit down, I'm just kind of curious about when you
Sure.
sit down to write a book, right? I mean, is it something that's just under your skin, or do you have like a calendar of 10 more books you want to write? Or what's
No, no, no. I mean, this is going to sound really weird. So be prepared for weirdness.
uh
Uh, they just show up. I don't know why. They just show up. Now I walk around. All the time. I have with me in my all the time. I have these little notepads, and I'm always dribbling down little ideas that come to mind and notice things. They make that note, and I keep writing it. I think about it some, but then at some point, the book kind of shows up and it goes, "Hey, come take dictation, write it down." And so, to me, it feels like literally I am channeling some magical force, and I'm literally the typist. And then it's it wakes you up in the middle of the night, and you learn you better get up, boy, because it's going to punish you in the morning. If you don't get up with it, next morning you got a blank screen. You think
Right.
in the middle of the night, you go, I remember this. This is such cool stuff. I know I remember it, but you don't. So I've learned to get up. My wife knows, oh, he's got a book coming. Here he goes. Here we know what this is going to be like, you know.
So,
And so you get up and you write as long as it's there. And
so you're an early bird, I take it, right? You get
I get up, yeah, I get up at 6 every morning, whether I need to or not. So yeah.
working on that. I'm working on that part. Being a musician, I'm up late. So
Yeah. I go to bed kind of early, but I'm up early. So yeah. So
so
at any rate, that's kind of the process. And then fortunately, I have great editors who can make I wouldn't recognize a dangling participle if I saw one. So you fortunately have editors who can make it smooth and all of that. I have a wonderful vernacular engineer who's good at taking a manuscript and going, oh, this paragraph belongs in this chapter, not here. It's big, gigantic chunks and moving them around. And as opposed to a copy editor who tends to work on grammar, which I don't know anything about.
excellent, excellent. So I'm kind of curious here. As you got into writing of this, it's about 5 secrets. So that's what you have
Yeah.
in cover. 5 secrets. So walk us through those secrets, and which one of those do you consider to be the most important?
Well, let me give a little bit of backstory about where they came from. When I realized we were going to be talking about innovation and creating a relationship with the customer, I go, okay, now let me think about what are organizations renowned for great innovation, and we all can name them. You know, there's Pixar, there's Google, Amazon. We can name them, and if you go inside those organizations, and I've studied them a lot, and you go, okay, what are the features that their cultures have in common? And what I found is repeatedly over and over, what comes up is these 5 things. They're highly curious. They are always grounded and focused. They are all about risk taking. I call it discovery. We can come back as to why. They build an atmosphere of trust. And finally, they're all about passion, energized, excitement, enthusiasm. So those 5 building blocks, I call them secrets because it's a cool word. And so if you apply those to a relationship, in this case, relationship with a customer, what might that look like? So the first one I think is probably the most important, and that's why I started with it first, and that is all about curiosity. In the book, I talk about be the customer, and my point coming from Little League. You know, you got a little leaguer at the bat, and we say be the ball, which is trying to get that kid to focus on that ball when it leaves the pitcher's glove, and so they focus on it and they can hit the ball. Well, being the customer is good, trying to get an understanding, deep understanding of what's important and what matters to the customer. A lot of times, and you and I have spent a lot of time in the mystery shopping world, a lot of times we sort of go about looking to understand the customer as confirmation of what we already know. And I like to think of it as more like a treasure hunt. What if you came into it like I have no clue what they're going to tell me? What kind of question would I need to ask so they'd tell me something I had I didn't expect it coming from there? And I'll give you a quick example. We were working with a major pizza delivery company, and you'd know the name if I named it. And we were doing a lot of focus groups, and we kept hearing the same thing about the product, the process, and the price. And then we said, what if we ask dreamer questions? Like, here's a dreamer question. What's something no pizza delivery company is doing that would be kind of cool? And we got the customers would say, well, what about the box? We go, box? Well, we want you to do something cool with the box. You know, I throw the box away. I think about, we go, what do you have in mind? Well, you could do a puzzle. You could do a Halloween mask. You could do some sort of coloring thing. And so, sure enough, a few years later, I'm working with a manufacturing company that does packaging. And sure enough, they do packaging for this pizza delivery company. And there was a box with one of those puzzles inside the cover. And you simply put wax paper between the lid, the bottom of the lid, and the pizza. And so you can, well, that's the example that comes out of left field. But you only get that when you're demonstrating that intense curiosity to want to be the customer, to know deeply. The second one's grounding, and that's all about creating a sense of focus. And how do we do things to keep the customer focused? There's a lot when you're brainstorming, when you're doing creative stuff, a lot of rabbit holes out there inviting you to come in. And so the chapters, all the sections, all about how do you keep it focused so you don't run down those rabbit holes and waste a lot of time. You stay focused. I live on a beautiful golf course, and our 14th hole plays over the water almost the whole hole. It's a real easy hole. It's 150 yards. It's a par 3. but you're playing over the water almost the entire time. And so there are a lot of golfers that end up with their ball in the water when it's not that hard a shot because they don't focus on the pin and what they're about. That's what the smart golfers do. And so it's
Mhm.
again, how do you maintain that? That's what I call grounding. One of the most important was discovery. And discovery is my word for risk taking. And you say, well, Chip, why the heck did you just say risk taking? Because it's scary. It's scary. And we got to take the scaredness out of it. So if we clothe it in the clothes of learning, then all of a sudden it changes. I was doing work with Lockheed Martin, and the group I worked with was the Skunk Works in Palmdale, California, and they're the ones who are doing air defense 30 years from now. And I was talking to a general who was working, there, and I said, what do you do to create an atmosphere where people are coming up with different, unique things? And he said, we kind of approach it as a clown on a tightrope. You're taking risks, but ain't it fun? Because we're learning. And so, how do you recast it so it's more something that's fun and different and unique and inspiring and not just scary stuff? Let's take in that. The fourth one is trust, and that's all about creating an atmosphere of transparency and openness and honesty. And we've obviously a lot written about that, and how we keep truth, the absolute truth, present in our environment. And the last one is passion, and that's about excitement and energy and enthusiasm. And I always like to remember that passion is really three words, isn't it? Pass, I, own. It's bringing the best of who I am to another individual, another relationship. Rollo May said there's an energy field between all humans, and we reach out in passion. It's met with an answer in passion and changes that relationship forever. So, how do we create passion and excitement and enthusiasm in that environment? So, those are basically the five secrets.
So which one is would you say is the most important, particularly when it comes to like even hiring people?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's the most important is curiosity, and because it all starts there. Starts with being in the customer's shoes. It all starts with trying to be deeply empathetic. And when you're hiring somebody, we ask questions that help enable that candidate to demonstrate. Can they demonstrate empathy? You know, um, Tell me about a time when something really disappointing happened in your relationship with another colleague, and tell me about that and how you reacted to it and what you did. So you can create scenarios where you get a person to actually demonstrate, do they have humility, do they have empathy, do they have the kind of compassion that goes along with that kind of curiosity is all about letting go of self out of deep interest of another. And so it's critical to create a relationship with a customer so that you build the trust. Because I like to think about it as imagination is a door open only from the inside. And so, how do I get my customer to open that door from the inside to give me access to their great, cool, unique ideas and techniques and things that could be beneficial in co-creating? Well, I can't do that unless I start with a relationship of curiosity and demonstrate I really care. I'm really interested in you. That builds the relationship that allows the ideas to flow.
Now, this co-creation idea, a lot of us have had different kind of focus groups or, maybe bring them in for journey map workshop kind of thing. But how do you approach that? What would you recommend? Is it a formalized process or is it just everyday living?
It's just everyday living, but it's everyday living with a filter. Everyday living with a kind of filter that says, I really want to get to know who you are and what matters to you and what's important. My business partner, I don't know whether you know this, is my business partner, Ron Zipke, and I invented journey mapping back in the early 80s. And one of the things that was a problem with the way it was originally, early applications of journey mapping is let's just map what the customer experiences. So, what do you think they do first? Now, the pronoun is the wrong one. It's all about, we discovered that whole process. We were working with a major telephone company and around service recovery. And so we wanted to understand, what did the customer go through? And so you ask them to tell you the trail of experiences and how they were feeling at the time. And so you go, and then what happened? And after that, it's like getting somebody to tell you a story, but they're telling you their experience. It's their journey, not our belief of what their journey is. We can't do a customer journey map. We get the customer to do that. We know too much. You know, so we've got to get the customers part of that. And again, it's a demonstration of curiosity. And so I think it all starts with letting that customer help us understand the emotional experience they have when they deal with us.
Absolutely. So, a lot of the people have been talking about the past month, what are some predictions of CX? Where in the world is CX world going? And what are some major future themes that you see?
I think it's going to be, and I ask this of my colleagues all the time, like people like, like Gene Bliss and Bruce Temkin and folks like that. What do you see happening? And what I'm seeing is it's going to become more humanized, less mechanized. We're not going to be so enamored with big data that we miss a chance to talk to the customer. We can sometimes learn more from the security guard in the building than we can from 40 focus groups. And so I think what you're going to see is a more humanization of the study of the customer and what matters to them. I think AI will always be a tool, but we need to, and again, keep the customer in the center, keep the human side in the center, because we all know what happened with HAL on 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yep.
So we're at risk of thinking, oh, isn't this cool? Isn't this AI cool? Isn't this new gizmo technology we got? Isn't this cool? But we tend to forget that fundamental to the customer is a relationship, and a relationship is distinctively human and it's distinctively emotional. And no matter how great our measurement tools are, John Steinbeck wrote a great piece about fishing in the Sea of Cortez, and he describes catching a fish and how it comes over the side and it's flapping and you're all excited and adrenaline's pumping and all of that. And then he said, but if you really wanted to study the fish, you'd pull it out of a formula of preservative and count. You can count how many spines there are and write down the truth. Probably the least important part of you or the fish. So again, we've got to think about what is this emotional connection we call a customer, and how do we use the kind of metrics that understand it and not just measure it. So I think we're going to see more in that direction.
Excellent. So hey, we have a gift to give away, and that is one of Chip's books.
Good.
And Chip and I were coming up with a question, so I'm going to let you ask the question, and we'll see who's the first person can answer this in the chat section, and you have to get it right. Okay.
Okay, good. Who coined the phrase experience economy?
First person to answer wins. Close, Mike.
I'll give you a clue. It was in 1999.
Jerry, you got it.
Great.
Mike, you were close with Joe Pine, but it was Pine and Gilmore.
Joe
Chip,
Pine and
you knew these guys, right?
I do. Yeah, I work with Joe. I know them both, but I know Jim and Joe. But I worked with Joe at he and I both were working with Marriott Executive Program years ago. So. And the Experience Economy, their book had just come out in 1999, and he was there talking about that book, and I was there talking about, I don't remember what, but something interesting or fun. So, at any rate, but and I've known them and known their work for years.
Awesome. We're almost ready to go into our networking, which is, but we do have one question here from Rich. Rich, if you turn your camera on and your microphone, you feel free to ask Chip your question.
Hi, Chip.
Hey, Rich.
How's it going?
Awesome. How you doing?
Excellent. My questions concerns getting co-creation from another source vicariously through the employees that serve the customer. So we believe in our organization, as well as any organization, that there's seriously tenured folks who deal with customers day in and day out on every issue imaginable. And because they also know the storyline of what goes on inside the walls of the company, the perspectives the employees, frontline, even back office,
right,
might have would be tapped into. What's your thought about that?
I completely agree with you. And I've always said, if you want to go find brilliance or somebody who can explain weirdness, go to your front line, because they know the answer, they know the story, they know the background. And I think the smart organizations recognize that, and and if you look at those organizations, to your point, that are renowned for being customer centric, and you say, okay, where do their senior leaders do? Where do they spend their time? And I use Marriott's example because Bill Marriott, even in his mid 80s, visited 100 properties a year. And he used to talk about how he'd schedule the visit. And of course, what happens is they paint everything because Bill Marriott's coming, and he'd ruin his suits with all this fresh paint. And so then he stopped doing that and said, I just go show up.
Yeah.
But, I checked into the Biscayne Marriott one night, and he was working the front desk. And so that to me, that was a fantastic example. He doesn't have to do that often, but the word goes out, it must be really important. And I remember he said a famous line. He said, leaders don't spend time with the front line because to make them feel better. They spend time with the front line to learn. And so I think to your point, it's all the learning that comes from spending time out there with the front line, hearing their stories, riding with drivers and spending time in the call centers. And that's where the brilliance come from. That's where the weirdness gets explained. Well, we don't understand why the customer does.
I don't want to build off of that real quick. I don't want to monopolize, but we're democratizing that. We just started a open suggestion box on a portal that we're calling Hatch. It's really from Spigot. It's a crowdsourcing platform. So we're asking our employees to give us ideas that they feel that will enhance the way in which customers do business with us, make it easier for them to do business with us. Right. And these ideas could be half-baked, somewhat baked, not baked at all, but the rest of the employees have the opportunity to weigh in, vote on them, add to them, build off of that. Sure. And the crowdsourcing vets the best of them so that the experts then review them to see what the feasibility of these ideas are, and the best ones win. They get worked on. There's a reward structure for these best ideas, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of great ideas win, ideas that make a difference. So we're thinking that this is a good mechanism for fostering ideas that are maybe buried down in one's head.
I think it's a great idea. One suggestion I would have is to many times when we use those kind of devices, particularly crowdsourcing approaches, or what USAA uses as a program called ECHO, every call has opportunity, but it's the same process, looking for ideas, is they're focused on what the customer needs and expects. If you set it up so you also are interested in what are the customer's hopes and aspirations, oftentimes you're building a path to those dreamer kind of questions where the customer goes, why wouldn't somebody do it like this? Have you ever thought about that? And they would provide you with futuristic kind of things, not just things that are responsive that fulfill a particular need or an opportunity.
Thank you for that. That's a great idea. Appreciate it.
We have another comment here from the audience, and that's Patty. Patty, if you'll turn your camera on and ask away.
Yeah. Hi. First of all, I want to say how much I enjoyed listening to you speak. It's been really interesting and just fascinating to hear all of this. So thank you. But one of the things that I encounter in my role as a consultant is that a lot of the leaders, especially the C-suite leaders, are pushing for more tech, and they want more personalization. They want more automation. They're pushing for SaaS in a lot of different cases. Now, I agree with you that the human touch is the right way to go, but how do you talk to your leaders in that case, and what do you share with them to help them compel them to understand how important the human touch is?
Well, if you look through all the stuff you already know about what your sort of voice of the customer program, and came up with some that are sort of show-stopping items from the customer. Did you know our customers believe this? Did you know that we have a group of customers that thinks this? And if you provided them, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, and that's just a symptom of X. I think sometimes if we intrigue our senior executives to say, I got to know about this, I got to know more about this, it can be a path to them going, let me really get inside the voice of the customer and find a path to that. We have to help our leaders that remember that the voice of the customer is a sound, not a PowerPoint. It's noise coming out of the customer's mouth. And we've got to help them want to be in a position so they hear those sounds, hear the words the customers are speaking, and not read it on a PowerPoint in a meeting. That's not the voice of the customer. And so I think intriguing them is one way I would go about doing it. You know, they're used to, you're saying, well, we got all these metrics that tell us this, which are good. You know, we can correlate to this and this. And that's always interested. But the anecdotes from the customer who goes, our customers are now telling us this. You know, I just wrote an article for a magazine, Real Leaders, and the title of it is, I wish the CEO could open this damn package. And it's all about how we get packages sometimes and we can't open them. And around here, you know, you got 12 tools and you cut yourself trying to get the package open, and you go, what would the CEO react to this if he or she got to open this? In other words, it's trying to get the C-suite to kind of get out of their mahogany row world and get into the life of the customer and the real things. And I think anecdotes you draw from what you do know from your voice of the program, forum, focus groups, or however, can oftentimes lead them to say, tell me more. I need to know more about this.
Well, I like what you were saying too about how the better CEOs and such, they get down and basically they get down and dirty. They get involved. Yes, they're in the trenches. They're not just talking to people, but they're actually experiencing it. And I think those are the leaders that understand the voice of the customer the best.
Right.
There's no substitute for that direct contact.
Yeah, we wish we could just hire those people. You know, people say, how do you get the CEO to be interested in the customer service? And I go, well, how do you get the CEO to be interested in financial management?
Mm-hmm.
You hire them. If they aren't interested in financial management, you probably wouldn't put them in the CEO slot. We need to be more. I think organizations need to say, if you don't care about the customer, you don't care how smart you are, and with the bottom line, we need to make sure you know this is the path. And oftentimes the success stories of organizations, particularly that they can relate to or say they're like me or enough like me, even if it's in a different industry, can cause people to go, we need to be different. I think leaders can change. I honestly don't think you know it's a requirement, but I think you can help them change. I've seen many leaders, work with many leaders that were, you know, when they were in B school, they took all the financial courses and they didn't take any of the social studies courses. and watch them change to a different kind of understanding. Jack Welch is a great example. You know, Neutron Jack, they called him at GE. You know, but he went through a major metamorphosis, and you can say, if you ask how that happened, it was all through Noel Teshi and the workout programs that they did in the early days that caused him to go, I never realized how important the customer is. And so he came to a whole different sort of a come to Jesus experience for him. So I think that there is an opportunity for leader transformation. But again, we've got to create, it's like going to church. You got to have something meaningful, powerful, emotional in that vein that causes you to go, oh, me, I need to give up my sinning ways. And so I think to use that metaphor, it's the same principle. And that's what I'm recommending is find those sort of customer gospels, if you will, that will cause them to say, I need to take another look at this.
You know, you bring up, we're almost out of time here, and I know, Chip, you have to go here shortly for your next talk. I want one more question, and then we're going to end this part of the program. But what is the biggest mistake most companies make in creating a customer-centric organization?
Well, I think it's just what we were talking about. I think the biggest mistake is how they don't pay attention to the front line that has all the smarts. You know, the analogy I like to use is, you know, if you were the captain of a fort, and leaders are kind of like that, they're kind of captain of the fort, and you sent out a scout, and that scout's gone for about 2 or 3 days, and they come back to the fort and they're all wide-eyed. What do you say to your scout? You probably don't say, I can't talk to you right now, I got to go to a meeting. Well, I believe organizations have scouts coming back every day kind of wide-eyed. And so we need to find ways to say, tell me what you learned, tell me what's important, tell me why, help me understand. You're my scout. You're out there seeing what the customer's seeing, hearing what the customer's upset about, concerned about. Teach me. And that, I think that is the biggest mistake, is we start with fancy research and we forget to ask the people who are the ambassadors on the front line, who are our scouts.
Excellent. Excellent advice. Chip, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my
Uh,
pleasure. Thank
really
you, Mark. I
appreciate
appreciate it. That's fun.
Yeah, and keep me posted on where you're going to be next. I can come see you without having to be an MC.
Absolutely. That'd be great. Well, you're welcome to come to Lake Oconee anytime.
Hey, that'd be great. We're going to go for those of you who are watching this on the replay. Every week we have a guest, and every week we also have networking. So we're getting ready to go into the networking portion, which is not recorded, but you can tune in and check out all of our different programs on our YouTube channel, or just register here at your convenience at cxforums.org. So once again, Mark Michelson, thank you so much, Chip Bell. We're going to go right into the networking. Audrey, take us out.